Welcome to Booked, the bookstore education podcast brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. In this episode, we're tuning into a session from the ABA archive with the first part of a three-part series, Creating a Strategic Plan for Your Store, presented virtually in March of 2022.
I am here on behalf of Rice Education Consulting. In short, we're known as Redcon. And so I'm so glad you're all here for the Creating a Strategic Plan for Your Store session. I'm really excited to just hear, some of your growth opportunities, just to learn a little bit more about the direction you're going. And I'm actually going to be your tour guide, if you will, on how to do that. So I first want to start with who is in the room. Why are you here? So if you can use the chat to type in your city and state that you're coming from, why you decided to carve out time to be in this session. So looking forward to hearing that. So I'll pause for a minute to let you do that. Right, this is great. Keep them coming. I'm so jealous of some of you that I know have great weather right now. So I'm looking at all these places. All right, I'm seeing some great things in there about why you're here. Want to launch a brick and mortar. You want to create a plan for the next 10 years. I love it. All right. So thank you so much for jumping right into that. So as I mentioned before, I'm Leslie Rice, and I am based in Cincinnati, Ohio. I was really looking forward to joining you all physically in my city, but we're now virtual, and that's okay. Um, our company is an organizational development firm. We are based in Cincinnati, but we have some offices in DC, Los Angeles, and Las Vegas. And we really help organizations focus on the development of their two most important assets, their people and their culture. And so what I'm here today to do is to help guide you down a path of looking strategically at where you want your business to go and where you want it to grow. So happy to be here, and let's jump into it without further ado. A couple of things to keep in mind as we determine where we go next. Now, I know what you're seeing on the screen now is a bit of an eye chart, but we're going to break down each of these sections. So what you're looking at right now are the different focus areas that you want to make sure you're really thinking about as you develop a strategic plan for your store, for your business, and how to grow. So we first look at our customers. Who are they? How would you describe your relationship with them? What is it that they're looking for from you? Why do they choose you? Okay. Then we're going to take a look at our products and services that we offer. So what is it that you're selling? Are you selling books and other things that go along with that? Or are you also selling an environment? Are you selling a place of peace? Are you selling a place where people can come and find whatever they're looking for, whether it's the latest book or whether it's just a place to meet a friend, to catch up, or just a relaxing place to be able to dig into their books and what it is that they like to do in their spare time. As we look at financial performance, are you growing? Where are your sales coming from? How can you achieve any of your sales goals that you want as we look to grow? Our operations. How smoothly is your business running? What are the areas where we're doing really good at? What are some of the areas that we need to take a step back and say, how can we improve this? We're spending way too much time in this area. So that's what we mean by operations. The fifth item down, our competitive edge. What makes your company unique? What is it that people are looking for from you besides the things that you're actually selling? And then finally, we take a look at the environment. And when I say the environment, we're looking at the external pieces in this moment. What are your competitors doing? What are the external factors that are driving how your business grows? or how your business is able to adapt to what's going on. Okay. All right. So I'll pause there for a minute. I know we are getting still some introductions, so that's great. Um, all right, so I'm going to move on into breaking down each of these areas. All right, so the first item that we are going to look at is our customers, our current and our future prospects. Okay. So, when we think about our customers, a couple of the questions that you need to ask yourself are, who are the people that are most loyal? Who is coming through that door? And then you ask yourself, why are they coming through the door? This is where we start to really understand who our consumers are. Okay. And so the visual over here that you see, we have on the left, we have a bunch of different consumers. So different color icons, different things about them. And then what we're doing is we're actually grouping them based on their needs and what they're looking for. Okay. So the first area we're looking at is our customers. Now, you ask yourself, who are the loyal people that are coming in the door? But we also have to ask ourselves, who is not coming in the door? Who is it that we want to have more of walking into our doors and coming in for our products and services? So, as we think about those questions, we also have to think about what those answers will do for us. So, how will we use this? We'll use this to develop new services and ways of selling our products, or discovering new ways to connect to customers, or changing up our marketing efforts. I know some of you are doing very great things as it relates to community building and being a part of the community that you're in. Is your space utilized from a community growth standpoint? Is it utilized from a mission standpoint? And so this is where we look at our customers and who are those people that are likely to walk through those doors. Okay. All right. And I see lots of people are asking about handouts. Don't worry, you will have homework after this session. So I'm just really setting the table so that you can do some work, some thinking about the strategic focus for your business. So this is just the first one. All right. So this is customers. Now, you will have a worksheet. So you all are working ahead of me, and I really like that. I love that you're engaged. So, one of the worksheets that you're going to receive later today is your customer profile. And it has a set of 6 questions. And in the second column, I've included some descriptions. What are some of the things I need to think about as I answer this question? And so the first part of it is going to be describing the customer that you're thinking of. What do we know? What do we know about them? What do we know about their desires? What do we know about their lifestyle? What are their values? What's their age, gender, race, ethnicity? Okay, we start to look at the geographic areas that they live in. We also look at their behavioral factors. What is it that they do day in and day out? Okay. And then as you start to really fine tune who this consumer is, then we start to get into what do they care about? What are their biggest pain points? What needs do they still have that need to be met? Okay. All right. So there is a customer profile worksheet that goes along with that first section of evaluating who your customers are. All right. So we are now moving into the second focus area, which is your products and services. Now, there is a strong correlation between your customers and the products and services that you offer. So the better you understand your customers, the better you can be at fine tuning those products and services that you offer. So understanding what brings people in and what keeps them coming back. Okay. The visual that I have right there, the basic needs of your customers is what should drive your products and service offerings. Okay. And so we look at that inner circle as what is it that they're actually coming in for? They might be coming in for books. But when we look at the augmented space, meaning wider than just the product itself, they might be coming in because reading is a way they can relax, or reading is a way that they can expand their knowledge and continue growing their information base. So we understand that we sell a product and a service, but it typically is going to be tied to some other innate need that that consumer has. All right. So again, the better you are at understanding your consumers, the better you can be at defining those products and services. And so this allows us to expand, or in some cases, shrink the products that we're offering. Sometimes we're just offering too many. So strategically, we have to make a decision that we may need to downsize what we are offering. Okay. All right. So that is our second strategic focus. All right, moving on to the third. Of course, it's about the money. We've got to understand, what are we doing financially, right? Because if we don't have the financial sustainability, then that's going to give us some trouble down the road, and we're not going to be able to be in existence or grow. All right, so the financial performance is extremely important. So understanding what areas have the highest rate of return for you. Where are you making the most money? What are some areas that still have some growth potential? Okay. What are the key revenue drivers for your business? And one of the things I want to point out is the Abacus report. So, this report is accessible to you all, and it is information from your peers. So, it gives you some good benchmarking information to be able to say, what are people in my area doing that are doing similar things? How are they performing? What are some of those areas of focus? What are some of those revenue drivers? So I cannot say enough that the companies that do the best at strategic planning and looking into the future of their business understand what's happening in the market. And so this is a great resource for you to allow you to see what's happening in your peer group and really get a good handle on those financial pieces. And I see some people are already using it. I see in the comments that Abacus is awesome. So take it from your peers, jump into that, dig into that so you have that data. How do we use the financial performance information? We use that to determine how to increase our revenue, or as I mentioned before, how do we cut back on expenses, or how do we cut back on some of the things that we offer in order to do better in other areas. Okay, so our goal is to create a better return on our investment. So wherever we're spending our money or our time or our resources, we want to make sure that we are getting a return on that in some way. Okay, so that is strategic focus area 3. All right. When we get to 4, this is our operations. So this is how your company or your business operates day in and day out, all the way from how do you get your supply into the store to be able to sell or ship to your customers, to how you package it after they've made a purchase, your bags, all of your supplies, things like that, anything that you need to operate your business. This also ties into some of your outreach, so your marketing efforts, how you connect with your customers. So thinking through the operations, you ask yourself, what tasks and processes require the most time from me? Are there areas where we can get more efficient? Can we improve that so that it's a better customer experience? What are the most common customer complaints? I don't know how often you all dig into that, but that gives you a good insight into how well your processes and systems are working. I know one of the things we think about is grow, grow, grow. How do we make more? How do we increase? But one of the things that we have to make sure is that our operations are set up to support that. Okay. And so it starts with this step process that I have in the visual. You identify what's working and what's not working. Set some goals based on those things. Maybe your goal is to improve something. Maybe your goal is to grow something, and then leverage your team, whomever that is. And I want you to think about your team as being bigger than just the people that work for you. Okay. So I see some questions in the chat, and there will be a moment that I'll pause. And so what if our sales are super low? Okay, so I'll make a note of that, and then I'll address that in just a little bit. But leveraging your team. And so some of you might be sole proprietors. You may be the only one, but there is a team of supporters. So from your accountant or any of your suppliers, things like that. find ways that you can patch into what they're already doing to make your systems and processes work a little bit better. So, looking at your team in the broad sense, then looking at any opportunity you have to automate. Anything that you do not have to touch can give you back some time and some capacity. Okay, so really looking for those areas where we might be able to automate. And then you roll out those processes and continue to evaluate them. Okay, so as we look at the operations pieces, we've got to understand what's working for us from a systems standpoint. Okay. All right, the fifth area. We're getting to the end of this broad overview. Okay, so area number 5 is our competitive edge. What makes your company unique? Understanding this will really help us figure out where we can grow, because the best growth opportunities come from understanding what you do well, understanding those things that you do better than others. Consider it. Is it your culture? Is it where you're located? The resources you have. Do you have a staff? What technology are you using? Where are you setting your price points? So, any of these things can be an advantage for you or provide an edge in the marketplace. And so, how we use this is to discover what makes you stand out and some of those qualities. And this closely relates to branding. So, understanding our brand identity. Okay. When we think about a brand, what is a brand? It's a unique combination of design, symbols, and words. So, what is it that you're putting out to the customer? Is your customer service second to none? Those would be some of the words and the symbols. Is your business set up so that when people walk in, it is a welcoming environment? Is it set up so that the purchase process is easy enough for them so they don't have to spend a lot of time getting lost on a website or getting lost in the store and not knowing where to look without someone offering help? So that is what I mean when I say those unique designs, symbols, and words. Those things compile together to create an image. That image is known as your reputation. Okay. It is what people say about you when you're not around. Okay. And then those things, the images, the symbols, the words, the design, those things help to identify you and differentiate you from others. So we know there are lots of booksellers. There are big box retailers that sell in this space. There are many of you, various sizes, but there's always a differentiating factor. The commonality is that it's about books, but everyone does it in their own unique way. And so the brand is how we differentiate from others. Okay. So when we think about our competitive edge, it starts to become, how do we create this image in the consumer's mind? How do we create a brand that makes people feel valued and welcomed? Okay. I'll take a moment to pause here and see what are some ways that you stand out or that you differentiate yourself from others in this same space. And we'll use the chat for that. What are some things that you are doing to stand out or differentiate your business? All right. Well, keep them coming. And you also have a worksheet. So, those of you that were happy about homework, here are some. Here is an exercise that's going to help you understand that competitive edge. So, I see sharing space, free gift wrap, expert bookseller recommendations. These are all very great ways to connect with your customer. Understanding what makes the customer tick is going to help you differentiate and almost meet their needs before they even know they have them. Story hour with children. I'm seeing some really good things in the chat. So please make sure that you all are visiting the chat. This is some great stuff, offering free local delivery. I love it. Children's bookstore focused on LGBTQ, Black identifying persons of color, characters with disabilities. I love that, making sure we are inclusive in what we're offering. Community partnerships, I cannot speak enough about that. When I mentioned in your operations, I mentioned your team. That is what I'm referring to. So it's not just your staff and the people that work with you on a daily basis, but it is anyone who can be a partner and can help to support you in these efforts. Hard to find books, locally focused. We're going to get into that a little bit more as we start to talk about our SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Um, Book ambassador program. So, really, some great stuff in the chat. So, please make sure that you're visiting there. But this exercise here is going to have you take a look at your competitors, understanding what words you associate with them, what words you think your customers would associate with them. What are those points of parity? So, parity, on par, things that are very similar between you and your competitors. Understanding those things can really help you stay in line with them. But then when we start to look at our points of difference, this is how we can separate ourselves. So we may offer the same thing that they offer, but we do it in a very unique way. And so I love taking a look at how we're similar and how we're different than our competitors. And then you'll take some time to think about your brand association. What are the words, the feelings, the emotions that you want consumers to associate with your business? And then you make that connection with them. Okay. All right. So I'm still loving what I'm seeing in there, bringing in indie and other things like that. So please keep those thoughts coming. But this is the competitive edge exercise. Okay. All right. So now moving to our last strategic focus area, we look at the environment. Okay. This is where you take a look at the external things that are happening. We know that there has been some racial unrest over the last couple of years within our country. We've also had some economic changes going on. There's been a boom in technology with the pandemic and many things going virtual and no longer being able to be in person. So we've had some really compelling things happening with the environment. Okay. So the better you are at looking at these trends, looking at these impacts and things that are changing the way that customers fundamentally do business, how they fundamentally shop, how they even think, and their value set. Those sorts of things are changing rapidly in our environment. And so, what's happening out there that can impact your business, both positive and negative? Making sure you understand those things is going to be powerful. And so, this helps you be proactive in how do you mitigate some of these risks that might come up. It also helps you see some of the trouble spots of your business that might be getting amplified or increased over the next couple of years if you don't do something about it. Okay. And so when we look at the environment, I can't say enough to just do some scans. Talking to your customers is a valuable way to get information about the environment and what's happening in ways that can impact your business. And also talking to your peers, making sure that you have a way to be connected to them. Okay. All right. So let me pause there. Thoughts and feelings. What's happening now? How are you feeling? Is this in line? I'm seeing some people are already doing some of their homework, writing down words of emotion and words that they want associated with their brands. Please make sure you're making a note of that for yourself. So when you do your homework, you can pop those in easily. But I'll just take a pause here to see how you're feeling. What are you thinking about? All right. Okay. So we'll just pause there and I'll just see if there are any thoughts, feelings before we go. Eager. I love it. I love it. Inspired and excited already. 24 minutes in. I love to see that. Right. Oh, wow. I see some of you have been in this for literally decades, some entering your 30th year. And this is a great time to take a look and say, well, what do we do for the next 30 if that's your plan? Brand pillars are your jam. I love that. All right, positive and ready for growth. I hope you are because I'm going to put you to work now. Okay. So in the next few minutes, we'll be doing some brain work. So make sure you're ready for it. Okay, I see another question. Okay. Strategy advice. New store. All right. We will come back and revisit the questions. Okay. I see some questions about the worksheets. Those will be provided to you at the end of this session. I want you, as I'm asking certain questions strategically about your business, I want you to jot down your responses as you're thinking about them on a paper that you can come back and connect to. Because when you get the worksheets, then you'll be able to really pop in some of those things. I didn't give it to you beforehand because I wanted you all to be thinking about the questions as I asked them instead of working through the sheets. So just wanted to let you know that piece, but they are coming. All right. So growth planning. All right. We've got to understand three things. Where will this growth come from? Okay. So we're thinking about growth, whatever that is. Maybe that's growing your revenue. Maybe it's growing your staff, growing the space that you're in, growing and expanding into a new space. Okay. So understanding where this growth is going to come from, I'm going to tell you where you can find it. Okay. And then once you understand where this growth will come from, you ask yourself what needs to be done. So, how can I take action? All right. So now I think I know where I want to grow or what area I want to focus on for my growth. Now, what are my actions? What do I need to do? And then once you determine what needs to be done, then you ask yourself what resources are needed. Is it time? Is it information? Is it money? Is it people? Sometimes you just need people to roll up their sleeves to help you in that growth moment. Okay. So these are three questions you're going to ask yourself, and we're going to walk through each of these questions. Okay. Or do we want to grow? How big do we want to get? I love that comment. Growth means different things. Some people will eventually get to a point where they feel like they're in a good space. I don't really want to grow anymore. I want to maintain. And so sometimes that growth has to come in improving our systems. We don't want to get bigger per se, but we want to make sure we become more efficient. And so we still kind of file that under growth. And as I get to the next section, you will start to look at the different ways that we can grow. And I love the comment that I just saw, bigger is not necessarily better. Absolutely, because growth can mean getting better at something. It doesn't have to always mean bigger. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that because that is helpful. So I don't want people to think that when I say growth, you have to be the next Amazon or you have to be the largest retailer in the country. As we look at where this growth will come from, we start to use a process or a framework that I call the SWOT analysis. Okay. You may have heard of it before. Hopefully you have, but if you haven't, no worries. Today is the day. All right. So the SWOT analysis, it is an acronym. So the S stands for strengths. The W stands for weaknesses. The S and the W are both internally focused. So they look at things within your control. Okay. So they look at what you do well. What is your company's advantage? What makes you stand out? Weaknesses. What are some of the areas that don't work as well for us? What are some of the areas where we consistently get complaints? Okay. So S and the W are internally focused. Then we look at the O and the T, opportunities, which are positive things that are happening that we can take advantage of, and threats, obviously, some of the negative things that could potentially impact us. And it's important to make sure you understand those at a deep level so that you can be proactive at mitigating those. All right. So as we look at opportunities, there's a renewed interest in your value proposition, the buy local interest. So the push for buying local, the interest in authenticity, the interest in diversity, making sure that we have representative figures, not just in our circle, but as we start to look for books and at other places like that that are main parts of our lives. Okay. So that push for diversity, being socially responsible. Okay, environmentally friendly, all of these things. I saw in the chat that someone does book donations, or they accept used books and things like that. As we start to look at ways to be socially responsible, that is a huge push right now. Recycling and upcycling things. New partners. Are there any opportunities for you to gain new partners? Is a changing regulatory environment with antitrust getting stronger in some places? Is that something that can impact you positively or negatively? Industry innovation. So the different formats, how has that impacted you? And I'm loving the chat. I see that some people are already using these for employee reviews. I like that approach. Now apply that same thinking to your business and how you can grow and take advantage of it. So it's great that you're already using this in some ways. Some of the threats, existing competitors. We've got some of the larger retailers with new strategies, copying the indie model, being able to pay livable wages. Absolutely. Absolutely. Changing customer behavior. As I mentioned before, the pandemic has fundamentally changed the way that we do many things. And some of those, we're not going to go back to the ways that we did before. We're going to keep this. So you have to understand, are there some things positively and negatively, opportunity and threat wise, that might benefit you based on that? Systemic threats, okay? We've got institutional racism and other things like that are happening out there. So, how do we ensure that we continue to have a diversity among booksellers and being able to have a base for customers that want to see themselves represented in books and in the channels in which they purchase? Okay. All right, so that is a SWOT analysis, okay? And so, where will this growth come from? Once you analyze your environment and take a look at the SWOT analysis for your company, it will help to highlight some of those areas where you might be able to grow, okay? Now, when we think about where this growth will come from an internal perspective, we look at different types of innovation, okay? So in that first column, well, the second column, I'm sorry, I've got different innovation types, okay? And so this goes directly to those comments that growth does not always mean bigger. And this right here is a great example of what I mean when I say I fully support that. And I'm so glad that someone mentioned that. Your profit model, how you make money and or meet your mission. Your network, we can have a growth innovation in our network and our partnerships. Your structure, how do you better align your employees, their talents, and your assets? Um, the processes that you use. As I mentioned, maybe there are some things that you do better than anyone. However, there are some places where your processes can get tighter. There are times where, think about yourself as a customer. There may be times where you have stopped patronizing a business because of their processes. Okay. So making sure you think about it from that standpoint of what is it your customers are saying? What do they like? What do they not like so much? How can you get better? Your product performances, distinguishing features and functionality. I saw many of those ideas in there when you all were talking about how you differentiate yourself from other booksellers. That is your product performance. And then the system. What complementary products and services can you impart? Okay. What other things go well with books? Beverages, right? Lots of people like to drink tea or sip coffee while they are, um, partaking in their books. Some people love to have a warm and welcoming environment. So, thinking about those complementary products and services. Is there anything that anyone's doing in this regard of complementary products and services? And I know some of you have mentioned some of them from previous questions I've asked, but go ahead and drop them in the chat if there are any complementary things that you found to be very well connected. Of course, wine. Yes, got to have the wine. And then we look at our service innovation. So enhancements around our offerings, how we offer and what we offer. Our channel, how do we deliver to customers? I saw someone that said they do local deliveries. of books. I love that. I love vinyl. I just saw someone put vinyl in the chat. Yes, absolutely. It just gives you just takes you back. Especially, as you're reading books from certain time periods, you just kind of want to be immersed in all of that. So I love to see that, just mixing the old with the new. Your brand, you can innovate your brand, how you represent your offerings and your business. And then lastly, your customer engagement. How do you drive and foster better interactions? All right, so you all are lighting up the chat. I love it. Wellness products, sage sticks, bath salts. One of my favorite places to read. Okay. Any other innovation types? So I love these complementary products that you are putting in. Okay. So you had to give up your reading area, someone mentioned, but trying to figure out how to bring it back. That's how we look at growth, right? You made a sacrifice to grow in one area, but now you're trying to figure out how do we get more of that consumer interaction and that space back in there. So please feel free to share any innovations that you are employing or that you're interested in employing, based on this list right here. Ooh, branded socks. I see that. I love it. Creating bundles. I love that. That is a way to really hit on that customer engagement. And that's another great place where we can partner. So when you think about bundles, what other partners or community partners have items that would be great complementary products? How do we start to combine our efforts and how do we start bringing them together? All right. So I'll pause for a moment, to let you all share any other innovation actions that you're taking right now based on this list. And I just saw sidewalk story time. So it sounds like we're getting out of the confines of our brick and mortar. How do we take our business and our offering out to the community, right? I know it's wonderful when people come into our space, but how do we go out and get them? So I think that is just a great way, to think. And I love that you all are sharing. This peer support is unmatched right here. So this is, I don't know if you all understand the power of this network, but there are some great things happening in here. So I want you to keep sharing. A plant shop. I love that. All right. So when we think about where this growth will come from, I want to remind you it does not always mean bigger. But the goal is to how do we grow to become better? Okay. So thinking about some of these innovation types. And after we think of where some of this growth will come from, we have to ask ourselves why. Okay. So I want you to just think about your why. Remember, growth is not just about getting bigger. So think about it in the broad sense. Why do you want to grow? Why do you want to grow? In whatever aspect that is. And I love that, some of the first comments are you have to grow, you have to adapt, you have to stay fresh, right? To grow is to live, to stay relevant, help ensure careers for all booksellers are there who want it. Okay, we're growing so we can work ourselves out of the business. So we can, as they say, work on the business instead of in the business. All right, being able to look at these things proactively when you free up capacity. I love some of this mission based, why. Okay, to be of service, to foster reading. Someone else mentioned, earlier in the chat about the literacy, and how the ability or the decline in readership, is could be a growing problem. It could be a threat. Um, we know that's a direct tie into the education system. So really thinking about your why. Why are you doing this? Provides a need for the neighborhood. I love that. I love that there's a great combination of mission and profit minded. So, purpose and profit, as they say. Okay. All right. So, when we think about why we grow, I want you to take a few minutes to think about your business. Create a visual. So sketch it on whatever, and it's okay. We're not judging your artistic capabilities, but I want you to really think about visually what will your business look like. And it's okay if you can't draw it out exactly, but I want you to really think about what it will look like in 5 years when you have successfully employed some growth strategies. I want you to think about that visual for your business. And I am still here. I'm just going to give you some time to think through what that looks like for yourself. Does your business look like more staff? Does it mean going from online to brick and mortar or expanding the number of locations that you have to going into non traditional spaces in book selling? Maybe finding ways to insert your business into places where it wouldn't normally be. What does that visual look like? What will it look like? And, as you start to really formulate that, feel free to put it in the chat. Thank you. Increase diversity in staffing. I love it. It's got to reflect the world that we live in. Absolutely. Living wages, actual inventory systems. All right, looking at automation. That's great. It's one of those strategic questions for operations. Please continue to share. I love the co-owning concept. When you talk about partnerships and complementary products and services, you can, join around a common mission. I love that. A book dispensary. Wow. I think it would be amazing. And I did forget to mention that I'm an avid reader. I love to read. My husband laughs and says, "Oh, she's got another book. I'm going to lose her for a couple of days." And, I get missing and I find myself in the book wondering what the characters are doing. So, as I'm looking at all of these ideas that you all have, I'm like, yep, want to check that out. I want to check it out. Pop-ups and more storage space. I love the pop-up idea. We have pop-ups for everything from food to any type of personal care products to clothing, but a pop-up for books. I love that. A book festival. Yes, I saw that earlier. Someone mentioned that. Very cool. All right. I love this concept. So there's a concept that my husband and I we are co-owners of Rice Education Consulting, so we work together a lot and we have a saying where we say we like to do well and good at the same time. So the doing well is the profit, making sure our business is sustainable and things like that. But the doing good is the give back and the mission and being able to employ other people, being able to allow people to work with us in their areas of strength and with their skill sets. So I love to see that many of your visuals look like the doing well and doing good model. So I can appreciate that. All right. So I hope all of you have had a chance to look through, to think about it, how you want your company to grow, what it will look like in the next 5 years. because the next question is what needs to be done to get there? Okay. Is it money? Do you need an angel investor? Is it product development? Do you need to develop a certain product or services? What's the cost benefit analysis? What will you have to give up for the benefits that you'll receive? Do you need to build a strong brand? Is it all about becoming something? So, being a place where people can go, fostering a love of reading and things like that. What is your brand identity? Do you need to build that? And then the last, with all the gear shifts, do you simply need the human resources? Do you need people to bring this to life? Okay. All right. So we've thought about where will this growth come from? And I gave you a list of different ways that we can innovate. And then we take a look at now what needs to be done in order to bring that visual to life. And it sounds like there might be some partnership opportunities because I see a lot of people in the chat jumping on certain ideas and saying, I love that. So, crowdsourcing. Do you just need people to bring it to life across the country, right? And we can get this, a collaborative going, if you will, to share resources. That is, I can't say enough about partnerships, okay? So I think that is really the way to growth. You want to grow, get more people, on your team, get more people in your partnerships and things like that. All right. So that is the question of what needs to be done. Okay. So we talked about where the growth is going to come from, what needs to be done. Now we talk about the resources that are needed: time, money, and expertise. All right. It is important that you have your business set up properly. And what I mean by set up properly is making sure that all of your official paperwork, your tax documents, your incorporation documents, those types of things are set up properly. Why? Because you need to have those things in order to access capital in many cases, right? There are grants available through different municipalities and cities and national foundations and things like that. If you're not set up as a 501c3 to be able to get grants, there are also other business development opportunities through different municipalities and other groups that are similar and offer resources. So is it time? Do you need more time? I know there was someone that mentioned I know someone had mentioned wanting to free up time, right? Hire more people so they could reduce their hours. How do you build capacity? Okay. So sometimes your resources are time. How do you build that? Is it expertise? Do you need someone on your team that has a different skill set or a different knowledge set than what you have so that you can continue to grow? All right. So those are the three questions we ask about growth. Why do we grow? I'm sorry, four questions. Why should we grow? Where will this growth come from? What do we need to do? And then what resources are needed? Okay. So I'm going to take a pause there to just let you process some things. Any thoughts right now? Any feelings? Anything you want to share? How are you feeling right now? Are we still feeling excited? Are we still feeling energized? I know some people are feeling nervous or anxious. I know this is work. It makes us look deep into our business. It makes us turn over stones that we may not have turned over for a long time because sometimes we don't want to know the truth about that. But I think strategic planning is equal parts scary and equal parts freeing. Okay. It gives us some relief to be able to look at our business in a different way. Can I come to your store? There are opportunities for consulting hours as well, which I'll talk about at the end of this. I have made myself available. And I will have the ABA team, make sure we share those details. Yes, your head is spinning from so many thoughts and questions. I totally get that and understand it. Okay, overwhelmed. Yes, I know it can be. All right. Streamlining our processes, feeling great about the idea of creating and thriving from better systems. I cannot say that enough. Making sure you've got the right systems in place. All right. We will keep going. Now, let's dream a little bit. I saw someone in the chat say, yep, we can dream. We're going to dream today. Okay. All right. What if I gave you $10,000? What are the top three things you would spend this money on? So I want you to think about the top three things that you would spend $10,000 on. If you were given $10,000, where would you invest it? And it doesn't have to be three things, but no more than three. Okay, so take a moment. All right, where would you spend this money? Okay, wide range of things that you all would spend this money on. Okay, um, now I'll also go back to the comment I made about different revenue sources and things like that. Um, tapping into different programs, business development opportunities, and things like that. I know it may seem far for some people to say, yep, I'll take that $10,000 that's laying around, but there is money and it's accessible out there. And so it's important for us to really think through this because what it does is it makes us say, what is most important to me? Okay. What is it that I truly need the money for? And when you think about it in this way, if or when the money comes through, then you already have some thoughts. So your head's no longer spinning on digging out of the immediate issues you need, but it allows you to really strategically put that to use. Okay. All right. We'll take it up a little bit. 15. So you don't have the 10 anymore. This is 15. So does that change where you would invest? And then I'll also ask it from a $20,000 perspective. How about we just jump up to there? If you had 20,000, now what would you spend it on? Okay, make sure you think through where would you spend it? How would you allocate it? Because these things are important. Because when it comes in, okay, vacation, absolutely. Sometimes we need to recharge. You probably still have some left over though. All right. So just same things, but at a larger scale. Okay. Automation. All right. So thinking through these things and then actually going out and saying, okay, this is my priority. All right. So doing this particular exercise here gives you an opportunity to look at where your priorities lie and what you might need to think about and focus on. So we know we want everything. We want more staff, we want automation, we want a beautiful building, we want new facades, we want a salary for ourselves. We want signage and marketing and all of those things, but prioritizing is key. What is the thing that's going to help you grow? Okay. Think about your visual from 5 years ago or your visual for the next 5 years that I told you to think about. What would this money go to that's going to help that become a reality? Okay. All right. Okay. So we'll pause there to see how you're feeling, what you're thinking. Before we go into, what's coming next. What are some of the things that we're going to look at in the future? Okay. All right. So we're coming down to a close. All right. So we're getting there. And then, obviously I'll open the floor up for questions. But these are the three worksheets that you're going to receive. Okay. So you're going to receive a SWOT analysis handout. You're going to receive the customer profile, which is in the middle. And so those are those set of 6 questions and some things to think about for each question as you profile who your ideal consumer is. The great thing about the customer profile is you can do that for as many customers as you feel you need to. Most businesses, I'll say all businesses, have more than one target market. Okay. So as we think of who our ideal customer is, then we start to think of maybe who the people are that are not coming into our stores, but we want them to. Okay. So you can create multiple customer profiles. Okay. All right. And then the competitive branding analysis. So as we look at our competitors, our points of parity, what makes us different, what brand association and what brand connections do we want to make? Okay. So these are the 3 worksheets that you are going to receive, and you are going to be able to really work through some of the thoughts that we had. The SWOT analysis is going to help you understand some areas for growth. What are some things that are not working well for your business internally? That might be where we want to start from an innovation standpoint. What are some of the threats, or what are some of the opportunities that are happening? These are the positive things happening in the environment that we might be able to take advantage of. Okay. I see some of you are talking about a retreat. I do understand the challenge of trying to think strategically and forward 5 years or 10 years, as some people have said, when you are in the day-to-day throes. And so that's not a bad idea if you can get away. Okay. If you can get away and have a retreat for yourself or with other people, that is great. However, if you don't have that time to be able to do that, set a goal each week. I'm going to cover my strengths this week. And then next week, I'm going to look at my weaknesses. That gives you some time to analyze the environment. That gives you some time to really observe from that lens what's going on with your business, things that you may not have realized. So I know it may be more urgent because you might need to grow, or you might need those revenues, or you might need that space immediately. However, there's no problem with taking time to do it. So I know sometimes this is overwhelming, but bite-sized pieces gets the job done as well. Okay. So don't feel like you have to sit and knock it all out. But if you can do that, I think that's great. But if you can't, assign yourself one task each week. Going to work on our strengths this week, our weaknesses next week, our opportunities the week after, and then our threats. And in a month, you have done a full SWOT analysis and you started to look at, well, how can I build on my strengths? How can I minimize my weaknesses? How can I take advantage of opportunities? And how can I counteract threats? Okay. Quarterly planning workshops. Please go see the chat. There are some other great ideas on how to bring these things to life. Okay. All right. So just wanted to encourage you for a minute to make sure that you weren't overwhelmed, or at least minimize that, because I know when you start to think about this, it gets there. Okay. But these are the 3 worksheets you're going to get. And that is your homework. Okay. And from that, something exciting is going to come. You know what that exciting thing is? It is the opportunity to look at your business in a different way, or in a way that you may not have done for a while, but with a lens that says, how can I grow? And we're talking about that broad definition of growth. We're talking about the innovation, the different types of innovation that we can have. Okay. All right. So I'm going to pause there and see if there are any questions now. I know we had some other questions. Let's see. Okay. So let me take a look. All right. So the first question, if you could give one piece of strategy advice to a new store, what would it be? So I will open up the comments One piece of advice to a new store, what would it be? We're going to crowdsource for a bit. And I will say, while the chat is warming up for this question, I will say from a business perspective, make sure things are set up properly. I cannot stress that enough about from a business standpoint, making sure your paperwork is in order. And then what that does is it allows you to take advantage of any opportunities or resources that are available for businesses. So from a business development standpoint with your municipality or with the city or even the county or the state, taking advantage of those opportunities, got to have it set up properly. Really understanding why you're doing it, and I know this is more than one thing, but understanding why are you in this? Is it to make money? Is it for mission? Is it a combination of both? Because that will then be your north star, if you will. That'll be the guide of the decisions that you make. But I'll also let okay, so yep, order direct from publishers as much as possible. That also ties to operations and it ties back to being set up properly so that you can do that wholesale direct ordering. Trust your intuition. Absolutely. So there's more than one thing in there, but I think you'll find some benefit in all the things that are there. Point of sale. That is one of those things that you learn from experience, right? Your point of sale matters. Think about it and web integration from the start. Absolutely. Yeah, someone mentioned that with PPP and EIDL loans, many small businesses did not have their paperwork in order. That is exactly why I think it's important to have all of those things out the way. Okay, some great stuff in there. All right, thank you all for that crowdsourced response. How general is too general? So I remember seeing it, but I don't remember who shared that. So if you want to get in the comments and oh, there it is. Okay, how general is too general? For customers, I want curious, open-minded people. I want a diverse community of book lovers. Okay. All right, so I'm putting my marketing hat on because that's what I do in my day job, okay? Um, I'm a marketer. As many identifiable elements about your customer that you can come up with is extremely important. And what I mean by that is start with that customer profile document, that the worksheet that I'm going to share, but you will see it walks through every detail of the consumer from the demographic makeup. So their age, gender, income, race, ethnicity, social class, occupation. That's just one part. The geographic pieces, okay? So where they live, where they work, okay? That impacts how they shop, where they spend their time. And then we get to what we call the psychographic factors of our consumer. These are the most important, but they are also some of the most difficult to get. Psycho, root word, mental thought processes. So when we start to talk about psychographic, it's how they feel, what they value, what's important to them, what is their lifestyle like. And I'm going into this level of detail because the more you understand about your customer, the better you can pinpoint where to find them, where you can intersect, how you can communicate with them when it's going to be relevant. So we actually don't want general information about our customers. We want it at a very targeted level. Okay. And I will just show you a preview. I'm going to come back because I know we've got some more questions. But one of the next sessions that we're going to do is knowing your customer, understanding their journey, how they shop. How can you build awareness of your product and your business? How do you pique their interest? How do you build desire? The only way that you can truly do that is to understand who your customer is. So I think you've got some good things, Paula, started on what you want with this person, but then start putting some of those things in that allow you to find that customer. Where do they shop? Where do they listen to? What radio stations do they listen to? What media do they consume? Because that's going to help you find them and get them in. Where else can you intersect in their journey? And then we'll start to look at the customer experience. How do we create an experience for them, all the way from making them aware that we exist, to how we get them to make a purchase, to how we get them to come back and make a purchase, to how we can then get them to advocate on our behalf and tell all their friends about us. Okay. So I hope I answered your question about how general is too general. You want to get as detailed as possible with who your consumer is, because that helps you find them and reach them. Okay. All right. And there is a follow up session where we're going to spend some time talking through that. All right. Um, do you have any tips on bringing colleagues to the table to have this conversation? I am assuming that I don't know who put that. So if you put that, please clarify here. But I'm assuming you mean, how do you get them in on these strategic conversations? Is that it? Okay. All right. So I would say make it a part of any meetings that you have. So as we talk about how do we bring our staff in, how do we bring our team in to have these conversations, every person that has a touch point with the customer, I think it's extremely important that you hear from them, whether it's their observation, whether it's conversations they're having with the customers. But I think everyone that is a touch point to the customer has to be brought in on these conversations. Now, you can simply ask their input. What do you think our strengths are? What do you think our weaknesses are? And you can do it as formally or informally as you would like to. Okay. So understanding that this really is a team effort, and these strategic conversations happen best when we get all the perspectives of people that work in our business. So I would say really maybe the worksheets are a good place to start, and they're not the end all be all. Don't get me wrong. The worksheets are really just to get your mind thinking around some of the things that are going to be important. Okay. To building a growth plan or a growth strategy. And so that's where some of the follow up sessions will help you. And then, also I'm available for some consulting hours, which again, the ABA team will share those details with you all to make sure. All right. I see there's some conversation about sidelines. What I don't have the context of that, but I'm just curious because I see there's been a lot of exchange. So I'm curious as to sidelines and how we're thinking about that. Oh, thank you, Claudia. Are there any other specific questions? Oh, sidelines or non-book. Okay, got it. Oh, got it. Items in store. Okay, so that's an industry thing. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Okay, got it. All right. Any other questions? Okay, is there a good way to ask our customers what they like and dislike? Is there a good way to reach people who are not currently our customers and ask how we could get them to come in? All right, so I will start with customers, um, the ones that are already there. A quick survey. Um, and there are lots of low cost or even free electronic survey tools. Okay, so you may already use some, but Survey Monkey is one, Google Forms is one as well. But I think incentivizing your customers for giving feedback. Never underestimate the power of simply having a conversation with them at the point of sale, meaning at the checkout. How was your experience today? Is there anything you're looking for? Is there anything that we can bring in the future? Is there anything missing from here that you would like to see? So I know we typically think of hearing from our customers as being a very formal process that has to be done with surveys and focus groups and official market research type things. But those one-to-one conversations can really tell you a lot. So I would say having your staff interact and just ask some of these questions, and it doesn't have to be an inquisition with multiple questions, but how was your experience today? Or, do you mind filling out this survey card, or clicking this link, or scanning this QR code to give us some feedback on what you would like to see in the future? And then you can incentivize them for doing that, giving them a discount on something, a 10% discount, or anything that would get them to come back into the door. Okay, so that's one way to talk to your current customers, through surveys or just general conversation. Some ways to reach people that are not there. I think this goes back to understanding who the people are that are not coming through your door. And then you profile them, meaning you create a profile on them. I don't mean profile them in a negative way. I mean, create a profile on them. Who is the consumer that's not walking through my door, but I think they would be a wonderful addition to my core customer base? Figure out where they are. Where do you find them? Is it people that are a part of a community group, or an interest group, or an affinity group, if you will, that you can invite in, or maybe allow them to host an event at your brick and mortar? And so I think those are some ways that you can talk to customers and hear from them, even the ones that are not your customers. Really just finding where they are. But it starts with understanding who it is you want to target, and then finding out where they are. Okay, and some people there are some great things in the chat about pointing them to other options, thanking them for buying here. All right. Yep. Customer satisfaction surveys. It makes you crazy. All right. So absolutely. And it can be very simple in store. We sometimes get on the bottom of the receipt, fill out this survey and get a free something. Fill out this survey, get something. Do it at the point of purchase. And then that lets them know that you care what they think. And then also you're rewarding them for giving that feedback. But it does have to be planful, because we do get inundated with lots of emails and lots of things like that. So leveraging some technologies that are out there would be great. Yeah, QR codes, that's a great way. Absolutely. Any other questions? All right, I see a comment that says this does feel more painless than it seemed at the start. Absolutely. It's just asking yourself these questions and giving yourself time to ponder them. All right, so how do we continue to make sense of this? All right, you start by working on the worksheets, so doing the worksheets. But then we also have a follow-up session on March 23rd from 3 to 4. And this is where we're going to start talking about a marketing strategy. So don't get overwhelmed with the term marketing strategy, because a marketing strategy is simply your consumer, so who it is you are targeting, and how you're going to target them. So what products are you going to offer them? How do you get them in the store? How do you talk to them? Is it social media? Do we go to where they are? Do we go to community events? So that's all a marketing strategy is understanding the consumer that you want to reach and how to reach them. Okay. And so it'll be very important for you to do some work on your customer profile before this session, if you plan to attend, because that will allow us to really have a good conversation about who this consumer is, and then map out their journey. Okay. All right. And then after that, so I already pointed out that this is about knowing your customer. So it will start with profiling, creating a profile of them. Who are they? Where do you find them? And then we're going to map out their journey. How do they go about their day? What does it look like to follow a day in the life of that customer? What that does is it allows us to really find those moments where we can reach them. The moments where our message for our business is going to be most relevant to them. Okay. And then obviously the customer experience part that I talked about, we're going to really walk through this. How do you get them all the way to purchase, loyalty, and then advocacy? All right. Then after that, we're going to talk about branding and promotion. So, doing a lot of work on the customer as it relates to marketing strategy, but branding is doing a lot of work on ourselves. Who do we want to become? What do we want the consumer to think about us? What images and emotions do we want to come to mind when they hear our business name or when they walk in the door? This session is about how we become that asset for them, how we become that trusted partner for them. Okay. And then how do we promote it? How do we tell people about it? Okay. So, whatever channels we think are going to reach that target consumer we're trying to reach, branding and promotion is going to help us get to it. All right. And so that session is going to be on the 4th. We're going to talk about your brand story, how to create those emotional connections. How do we celebrate the uniqueness of your business and how you do it differently than anyone else? And then processes. This is how we start to put in those processes. Your processes, your people, and your structure. And you might say, wow, we're talking about branding. That's just how people identify us, right? Well, your processes also identify you. How seamless is it for the consumer? What is the experience? Those are all part of your branding elements. Okay. And then the people. All right. So thinking about those things. So we are not leaving you hanging after today's session. So we have 2 follow-ups, and then there's also some consulting time if you just want to talk directly about your business and think through, all right, where do I start? Okay. So I am so glad that I had the opportunity to be with you all today. I've been working with the ABA team for a couple of weeks, several weeks now, and it's been exciting. And leading up to today, it's all awesome. Okay. And so I like to, at RedCon, we always like to close with a an exercise called just one word. So whatever you're feeling, whatever word you want to put, drop it in the chat and we are going to wrap up for the day. That is your exit ticket, I'll say. You can't leave until you give us your word. All right, just one word. All right, go ahead and drop it in the chat. And I appreciate you all for being here. It's been fun. Good. I'm loving to see we're empowered, we're energized, we're not overwhelmed to where we don't feel like we can do something. I hope I made it bite-sized for you. So awesome. Keep them coming, and you all enjoy the rest of the conference and enjoy the rest of your day. All right. Good stuff here. Good. Under-caffeinated. I like that. Good stuff. I'm just reading the comments. They're awesome. And thank you all so much for the kudos. I had fun. If you can't tell, I'm a geek at this. I love this stuff. Small business, helping small businesses is one of my passions. And obviously, I told you before, reading is another one. So if I can help businesses that promote the love of reading, that's a twofer, 2 for 1, as I call it. So thank you. All right. Well, you all have a good rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Book to the Bookstore Education Podcast, brought to you by the American Booksellers Association. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. Additional educational resources can always be found on the ABA website at www.bookweb.org. Happy reading!